Greetings, everybody. We are here live, back for another wonderful episode of D-Live, the Convo series. And today we have Sara Bitter, who will be joining us here momentarily. We'll give everybody just a moment to come online. We've got some folks joining us already, so I appreciate that. Just a little reminder, if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in the comments, and I will keep an eye on them and share those with Sara. And if you would be so kind as to share this, that would be amazing. So we can have as many eyeballs for Sara as possible. It would be fantastic. It's just challenging these days, in these COVID days, of how do we say reach voters where they're at? Well, how do we do that? And this is one of the ways. So with that being said, we've got a number of people jumping on right now and joining us. So Sara, welcome. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having me, Derek. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for those that haven't joined us in the past, we've got a great slate of guests. One of the cool things is the number, especially of candidates. We have such a great, just a slate really of wonderful female candidates, especially for our state rep spots, and that's always a cool thing, and even getting better. So we've got some great guests coming up, and we're glad to have you this evening. So typically what we like to do is just learn a little bit more about you, about your background, and why you're so passionate and driven to make things better at the Ohio State House, which these days, we really, really need. So if you could just share with us a little bit about your background and so forth, and then we'll talk about your campaign and the issues that you're running on today.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Sara Bitter, and I am actually born and raised native Cincinnatian. I currently live in Sims Township. I am a mom. I have two boys, and both of my children are living with a developmental disability. I am an attorney by trade, and through my children and through my experiences with raising them, having them, and then raising them, I have become, I call myself a disability rights advocate. And I actually, I decided to use my legal background and my advocacy background as an attorney to essentially go back to school and learn how to advocate for families, mostly for families who have children with developmental disabilities like autism or Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or other types of disabilities. But over the years, I started to increase and make the group bigger, and so now I do advocacy, for families who have people with disabilities like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, and aging groups, or even people who have mental illness like anxiety or depression. And it can also be police officers or even veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. So I try to talk about and advocate for the large group, for the large disability group. And yeah, that's kind of been my life for the last 15 years. It's not how I started off my life, but that's who I am today. And so that's kind of driven me to run for office as well.
Wow. So you say you're a native Cincinnati. I'm just curious what you're in Sims Township now, and we'll talk a little bit about the 27th district, which is the far east side of Cincinnati, and then obviously up your way, Sims Township, up towards Loveland. What neighborhood in Cincinnati did you grow up?
I grew up in Mount Washington. So I actually went to Mount Washington Elementary School up until I was in the 6th grade. And then I actually moved all of 3 miles away and went to Forest Hill School. I graduated from Turpin High School. And my mom was a nurse, and I know that you were a police officer as well, so we have that in common. My stepfather was a police officer. My uncles and my grandfather were also police officers. So actually, I come from a family of police officers.
Oh, wonderful!
But yeah, I grew up in Cincinnati. I went to Mount Washington Elementary School.
Very cool. And
then the Turpin High School, and then I actually went to UC for undergrad as well.
Got you. And I'm sure we have probably a few folks from Mount Washington joining us this evening. We've got a great group, especially our East Side Dems group, and Bonnie Dunkelman out that way, although she's in Anderson, I believe, but doing some great work. And speaking of East Side, we've got in Hyde Park, we got Christine Cho doing some wonderful work out there as well. So yeah, tell us a little bit more. Now, this isn't your first run for office, right? What's how did you're an attorney by trade? How did that kind of evolve into this desire really to put yourself out there? We know how challenging it is to run for office and kind of open yourself up in that way. Your family's got to be on board with this, because next thing you know, you have people attacking you, and it gets kind of crazy sometimes. How did that happen? And tell us a little more about kind of that political background, how you delved into that.
Sure. Well, I've always had an interest in policy, and I've always had an interest in politics. So I actually studied political science, and I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And early in my life, I actually, when I was in college, I went to UC and I did a co-op program. And while I was there, I applied for, I worked at a law firm in Washington, D.C., and then there was an opportunity to apply for an internship at the White House. This was during the Clinton administration. And so I applied for that, and I actually ended up getting the internship at the White House. I was placed in the counsel's office. I was with the lawyers at the White House. So I got to go to Senate hearings and House hearings, and it was an incredible experience. And then I came back to UC to finish up, finalize my degree, because I knew I wanted to go to law school, but wanted to work at a law firm and get some experience before I went on. And I called my old boss to ask her for a reference, and she actually ended up offering me a job. So a week after I graduated from college at UC, I was working in the West Wing of the White House in the Clinton administration. So I actually I always tell people I front-loaded my life. I had to, being in the White House before a re-election, at that time, again, during the Clinton administration, I had this incredible opportunity to see things at the executive level, the legislative level, and even the judicial level, because I was working in that counsel's office. So I've always had an interest in policy and politics. And then I ended up going on to law school in Cleveland at Case Western Reserve. But it was after I had my children that I completely changed my trajectory and how I was gonna what I was going to do with my background, with my law degree. The first years of my kid's life, I had to stop everything. I had to just completely come to a grinding halt with my profession because I was learning how to navigate healthcare systems. I was just going to doctor after doctor, therapist, constantly, trying to figure out insurance and how to get my kids health care. It was a really big challenge for us. And then I moved into schooling and education, and over the years, I kept encountering some really large challenges. And so I decided to go back to school. I went back to school at Children's Hospital and UC. They have a program that teaches leadership education in neurodevelopmental disabilities. And it teaches you local, state, and federal policy and how to advocate for families and for people. So I did that. And that's kind of what I did with my legal background and my law. My legal career, I guess, is a non-traditional, more like policy and advocacy type of work. And so once 2016 elections occurred, I was really concerned about, really concerned about people losing their health care, about pre-existing conditions, and then really worried about education cuts and funding and other types of systems that I felt were really taking we're taking a hit, so to speak. And I just decided, just like a lot of other women who decided to run for office, if not me, then who, right? I have skin in the game, I've got kids. I advocate for families that I would encounter every single day who absolutely do not have, they don't have lobbyists. They don't have people that are going to go into the legislature and pay a lot of money to make sure that their interests are heard. And I just decided I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to get in that legislature. And so I ran in 2018. And I ran for the state Senate seat at the time. And this district, by the way, that I'm running now, I ran this district as well. So this is 1/3 of what I ran before. That's how I decided to do it. I lost that Senate seat, but here I am now, and I'm running again for the state representative seat. And I learned a lot from that race. So I have a much better way of running now, and I feel very confident that I can win this seat.
Well, that's amazing, and oftentimes it does take. Speaking from some experience running for Cincinnati City Council in 2017, sometimes you have to just get your feet wet, get a sense of it, and then build on that platform and that base that you've established, and go from there. That's fantastic. One of the things, I was making some notes here while you were talking, and a couple of things that you mentioned really hit home for me personally. Even as a retired police officer after 26 years, most of my career spent with the city of Mason. But when I retired in 2016, we were on, through our pension fund, we're on, we had a group plan for healthcare for that first year. The second year, cost savings, they kicked us off. We're basically on the ACA. And for me personally, it was a healthy 52, although I know I look very young for my, for my elderly years. But nevertheless, we're getting killed on healthcare, paying $500 a month for a $7,000 deductible for a single plan, and so this is one of the just real challenges and issues and problems that I have with our Republicans on the other side of the aisle, especially as a retired cop. When they try to wrap themselves in the flag, give us the whole thin blue line and all of that nonsense. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, they're taking away our health care. They're taking away our collective bargaining. They want to take that away. They want to privatize our pensions. I mean, and I could go on and on and on with that. So to me, it's like a bunch of lip service, and somehow they've kind of, or at least tried to, own that space. But at the end of the day, they're taking food off our table. So why? I don't know why. And you come from a law enforcement family and background, and then they try to paint the Dems as anti-police, or now it's like they're you don't want to do away with the police, are you? Are you trying to do that? I mean, that's what we hear. That's what we hear, and to me, it's a bunch of nonsense. But that's what they're trying to do. What's your take on that and the intersection of those kind of things where this is impacting real people?
Yeah. What I think is that people with money have the ability to run a whole lot of ads and make people get to see those ads, right? They get to watch commercials, and they get to say whatever they want to say in the narrative that they want to say it, and people will believe what they see. They'll believe what they see on TV if it's running a commercial, or if it's running a TV ad, or excuse me, if it's run, or even on their, sent out in the emails in different ways. And money has been used to, in my opinion, to harm and tell a story that's been very harmful to voters. It is not true. Democrats will they'll try to peg us as socialists, but yet we're the ones fighting for a minimum wage. We're the ones fighting for health care for people. We're not trying to create socialism. We're just trying to fight for basic. Like you said, we're paying hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars per month for something. It's a contract. We're paying for it, but then we don't get the health care that we just paid for. And we have these massive deductibles. I mean, when you think about the amount of money that we pay, that's not socialism. We're paying for it, right? We're paying our money for this. And all that Democrats are trying to do is make sure that if you're going to pay money, first of all, we should lower the cost of that, because we can negotiate, right, a contract, negotiate insurance to make it less expensive. That's what we should be doing. But we're not, right? We're listening. We are getting, Democrats have, in my opinion, we haven't had the opportunity to fight back, I guess, so to speak. And now we are. And that's why people like me are running, because we're not just going to let them say things, create a false narrative, right? Create a false choice. We're going to stand up to it. And as far as the police go, I have been endorsed, by the way, by the Fraternal Order of Police. And I was in 2018, and I am again. I'm supported by them. They're a labor organization. I'm I'm not going to create right to work. I'm not going to allow right to work to come in Ohio and take away collective bargaining. If you have post-traumatic stress disorder, you should get health coverage for that, right? You shouldn't take away your pension after you've already retired or take away your health insurance after you retired. You worked your whole life for that. You put your whole life into that job. You risk your life every day, and they're not holding up the end of the bargain. And it's been Republicans in the legislature for years that have been taking and changing these policies, not Democrats, right? It hasn't been us. So give us our turn. Let's see what we can do. If you think you're doing it so well, but yet everything's falling apart, give us a shot. Let us try. And I think that we can do a great job. And as far as defunding police, Democrats aren't going to defund the police. The police have already been defunded, right? The state and local government funds have been depleted. Our state and fire and our police funds have been cut. Police funding has already been cut for years. And we are trying to restore that, right? We're trying to fund the police, not defund the police. And, obviously cutting back mental health care for people and having people on the streets who have mental illness is putting police in a really, really bad position. And it's setting them up for really challenging situations, which is, I don't know how anyone could handle that without the proper support. It's a really tough situation, but it all comes down to we're cutting funding for state and local governments, we're cutting the fire, we're cutting the police, and this is the Republicans that have been doing this, not the Democrats. And for us as Democrats to say we need to restore that is not socialism. That's called fighting for people. That's called fighting for regular workers that need somebody to stand up for them. And that's, again, what I said at the beginning. For people who don't have lobbyists, right? For people who don't have really large corporate accounts that can just run commercial after commercial and slam somebody. Really, it's, in my opinion, a lot of these things are slanderous, right? They just make whatever they want up, and then the person, their opponent loses because they just kind of make it up, right? Like Larry Householder, he just got a bunch of money and then runs ads against candidates and causes them to lose, right? That's what money buys. So I'm running against that. And I'm standing up and I'm doing it because I am fighting I want to create a disability mental health addiction caucus in our legislature. My sights and my eyes are seen on the 1 in 4 Ohioans that have a disability. I'm thinking of people in nursing homes who are dying at much higher rates right now because of COVID. And I'm thinking of the workers that work there that don't get the PPE that they need or the cleaning supplies that they need to care for those people, and they're getting paid terribly and they're not getting benefits. So I'm running against that. So I just went off on my tangent, but you asked the question, so there you go.
No, it's perfect. And I'm writing stuff down here as you're making points. And one thing I want to just make sure that we just adjust your frame just a little bit, so we don't cut you off there. We just need, wait, I think it's a mirror image the other way. There you go. That's perfect.
Okay.
I don't want to lose you. So you make a couple of great points to my earlier point. So for example, we're all about the police, they say. But yeah, since probably the 1970s, in the name of small government and all of that, we're going to cut all, mental health funding. Well, mental health issues haven't gone away, right? And so now that those systems aren't in place, when people have challenges and they can't cope, either themselves or family members or neighbors or whoever it may be, what do? They call the police, right? It's the organization of the last resort that you call when you don't know what else to do. And then, so now it's on my plate. Well, it was for 26 years, and now others, to go out and respond to this. And you have to be an expert in the mental health field. You have to be a sociologist. You have to be all of these things that, because of all of these cuts to other segments of government, it's all fallen on their laps. Now, how is that a pro-police position? I don't understand that. But we have to connect a couple of dots here. But just because you say it doesn't make it true. Am I off base on that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Just because you've been able to have to say the narrative for all these years doesn't mean that that's what's actually happening. And I think what people are realizing because of COVID, it's the great revealer, right? Now we see all the blinds are coming out. You know, we're seeing all of the systems that really have been defunded for years. The safety net that you paid taxes for in the event that you need it. Hopefully you don't, but again, 1 in 4 Americans have a disability. 30% of all American families have a family member with disabilities. It can happen in your life, right? But now we've just cut them back so badly that we're scrambling. And it's our healthcare system. Mental health is a big part of that, obviously. Schools, I mean, we've cut school funding so much for public schools by now that these schools, they're going back into school and the federal government hasn't even passed the CARES Act to help them. Like, are they going to have enough PPE? Are they going to have enough cleaning supplies to keep the schools clean? Are teachers going to get laid off? What's going to happen, right? What if someone gets sick? Are they going to be able to pay for this substitute teacher? What about parents? What do we do, right? What do we do as parents, as women? We have jobs and we have to take care of our kids and keep them safe, but yet they might need to come home and be virtually taught. We're really put in a horrible situation. And why? Because we've been cutting funding for years for the most important things that matter in our life: our health, our education, our jobs, making sure people are able to get good quality training and jobs so they can get paid well and live a good life and travel and have families and have a good, safe, healthy community. So, the narrative has been given. Too much has been given to the Republicans, in my opinion, over these years, and it's time for people to look at what's happening around them and look at Democrats. I'll speak just for here locally, right? Here we are. You're stepping up to run for office. You've run. You're going to run again. I ran. I'm going to run again. And we are leaders. We have experiences that we can bring to our local and our state government to make things better. We can do it, right? We know we can, and we have a lifetime of experience to do that. And that's why I'm here. I give it everything I've got. Again, I'm from a public service background, and to me, this is completely second nature, and this is what I want to do. And I'm not doing it so I can get rich. I'm not doing it so I can get name recognition. I'm doing it because I can't stand to see things fall apart the way they're falling apart. We are better than this. We deserve better than this. And I know I can work hard and make things better, and that's what I'm going to try to do.
I love it. Well, you're getting me fired up. I'm ready to go. Where's my clipboard? I'm ready to go knock some doors right now. But yeah, I mean, you keep making great points here. This is amazing stuff. I mean, one of the things you mentioned is how tough this is on women where they cut these and single moms, you know. And so we've got the kids are out of school. We've got COVID going on. Yet we're demanding people go back to work, but we're cutting unemployment. You know, it's like we're getting you from every angle. And to that point, we had a couple of comments here. I want to touch on those. Natalia Jones stopped by and said, "Thank you for what you're doing, Sarah." Kelly Kuhn says, "Miss you," and she's so proud of you, which is cool. You got a lot of fans out there. And Mark Connor, buddy up in Butler County, says, "Sarah, what is our Dem message for Ohio's small businesses on Main Street when PPA ran out 2 months ago? What can we do to help the small business?" I look at the stock market. The stock market says everything's fine. If you're a bigwig, if you're Amazon, hey, we're going gangbusters. But what about these small businesses? I look out here, these restaurants can barely stay open.
Yeah. Well, we are at a moment in time. We're in an emergency situation, right? So this is think back, like civics class, history class, all the things we've ever learned. This is a moment where we actually need the federal government to help the states. It's that simple. We all pay taxes. Remember, you pay taxes for government services that you need, right? Hopefully, you can say, we want to have a small government. Yeah, we do want to have a small government. But if we're in a moment of crisis, we need our government to step up and do what it's supposed to do. And right now, our federal government needs to pass a CARES Act. So if you want small businesses to get the help that they need, you need to call your U.S. congressperson, And you need to call your U.S. senators. Actually, your senators right now, that's where it is, right? It's in the U.S. Senate. And so they should pass that bill. If they don't pass that bill, it's almost like over 800,000 people right now stopped getting their $600 a week for unemployment that needed that to survive, right? These are people that couldn't work and needed to have that in order to survive. They're going to not be able to pay their rent. Then they're going to get evicted, and then that's just going to create a cycle. So the answer to your question is you need to call your U.S. senators. That would be your number one thing to do. And then I will say to everyone listening, vote Democratic. Please help us, right? We need to have a two-party system in this country. You have to have a check. You have to have checks and balances, right? Even if you're a Republican or independent, that typically goes for Republicans. I'm telling you, you do not want to live in a one-party country. Whether it's a one-party Democrat or a one-party Republican, you do not want to live in that country, right? None of us do. That's not a democracy. That's not how our country was set up. So I hope that you will get involved and call your senator, make noise, tell people to you can tell your friends to call their senators, call them. I can tell you we have one senator that definitely wants that CARES Act to get passed to get that money to the states for the small businesses, and you got one that's holding up, and I'm sure you can figure out which one is holding up. So give them a call.
It sounds good. Hey, so to that point, because you're making a million great points here. We're talking about a one-party rule is bad in that way, and we know that many of our, not only our congressional districts, but our state house districts are gerrymandered. Let's talk a little bit about your race and the campaign specifically, kind of from that perspective. Tell us about the 27th district. What does that look like? Is it gerrymandered? How do you feel? What's your sense of it? I mean, I feel like you're in a really strong position to take this. We see this blue wave, that's forming. We're talking about in the suburbs, nationally in the suburbs, the trends are blue, especially with women, college-educated women. I'm sure that's a big part of your demographic, especially up towards Sims Township and around there where you're at. What does it look like from the campaign perspective right now as we go into these final 80 days?
Okay. Yeah, this seat, House District 27, I will say is targeted in the top 7 seats to flip from red to blue in Ohio. So we're the only seat in Hamilton County that has the ability to flip. So Jessica Miranda's seat, she needs to keep that seat. So please help her keep that seat. And then we need to flip this seat, District 27. I want to tell you that District 27 is in Sims Township. And my kids actually go to the Sycamore schools. It's in Loveland. It's only Hamilton County, by the way. Indian Hill, Anderson Township, Terrace Park, Marymount, Mount Lookout, Hearts of Hyde Park, East Walnut Hills, Columbia Tusculum, both the eastern suburbs. This seat has been held by my opponent for the last 14 years. He's a Republican.
How long has it been?
It is time. Well, he hasn't been in that seat for 14 years, which you can only be in 3, but he's been in office for 14 years. And it's time for change. It's time for a new perspective, a person who is ready to go into the legislature and do good work and fight for families, fight for caregivers, fight for people with disabilities, with mental illness, work on the addiction crisis, help get the funding and support to police officers, to fire, to labor, to workers, to teachers, right? It's time because this district has changed a lot. This district has become much more blue. Yes, it's still a very moderate district, right? But it's turned blue, and it's part of Hamilton County. Just like all of Hamilton County, it will continue to get more and more Democratic. And so this is an opportunity for us, and it's an important one because we just had our census, and we're working on it now. So if you haven't filled out your census, please do. Mm-hmm. So the census, they will use the census numbers, and they will redistrict the entire state legislature and the U.S. congressional seats in Ohio. So right now, if I were to get in there, I would be able to help redistrict Ohio in a more fair and balanced ways to end gerrymandering. That's why it's important that we get more Democrats in there. There is currently a supermajority Republican legislature. That means on the House side and on the Republican side, there is a supermajority, and we obviously have a Republican governor. So we need more. We need to flip at least 2 seats in all of Ohio. Keep all that we've gained before in 2018. Flip 2 more, and we break the supermajority of the Republican Party in Ohio. We think we can do better, but let's do it, Hamilton County, right? We can do this. We can flip this seat. So I hope all of you watching this will get involved, and it matters. I mean, I would represent House District 27, but I also would make policy for the entire state of Ohio, for everyone, right? Your legislatures matter. They govern almost everything that impacts your daily life, right? School funding, local government funding, roads, I mean, all kinds of things that matter. Insurance, whether your insurance covers mental health, like let's say you pay hundreds of dollars a month or thousands of dollars a month for your health insurance, and let's say your child has anxiety. Well, does your insurance cover anxiety? Can you get a psychologist or a therapist to take your daughter to? Well, insurance won't cover it. Why is that? Why do we have a legislature that doesn't make it so that we can cover these things? Why do we not talk about mental health in our schools? Why do we not do that? Because we have a legislature that doesn't prioritize that. We don't prioritize these issues, and we should. And so that's another reason why it's important to break that supermajority. We need new leadership. Please, if you don't know about it, look at what happened with Larry Householder, the Republican legislator that just got arrested by the FBI. The previous one, just the one right before him, was also arrested. I mean, and these guys have been in power forever, right? When's it going to end? When it will end is when we get more Democrats in that legislature, and we can do good work.
Indeed, and we've, like I said, we've had Jessica Miranda on in the past, and some of your other fellow Democratic candidates for Ohio House seats. This is a massive scandal. $60 million. $60 million. This guy, Larry Household, and he's still up there. And that issue that surrounded that, where we're bailing out the nuclear plant, increases rates for rate holders across the state of Ohio, ratepayers across the state of Ohio. Everybody on your electric, your energy bill, is getting dinged for this. And this guy makes $60 million out of it, and then takes a little lot for himself, but takes pieces of it to help some of these other Republican candidates. This is a massive scandal. We need to break this up, and this good old boys network that's up there. And so I think we have some great women here in Greater Cincinnati that are running, who are just the folks to do it. Do you agree? I'm going to assume you're going to agree with me on that.
I would like to tell you a little story about that. So when I was deciding if I wanted to run for office, I actually asked a couple of different people if it was. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
I asked a couple of people if just kind of getting like their opinion if I should run this seat. And what I was told by one person was that the problem with running this seat is that if I was good enough and if I did a good job, then the Republican Party has endless money, and that they would take that money and they would just pour it into bad ads, just make up whatever they want about my campaign, and just tank my candidacy, right? They told me that that's what would happen to me. And they said they have $500,000, $1 million, whatever it takes. They have that money and they can just drop it, right? And create bad ads, and then just you would lose, right? Well, it turns out, and I thought to myself, by the way, I want to say this for myself, you know what? I'm running for people with disabilities, people with mental illness, people with addiction. I'm running because I'm going to fight for people that I know are vulnerable, and I'm going to talk about this stuff ad nauseum until you don't want to hear it anymore. I'm going to talk about it. And that, to me, I overcame that fear, right? Because it shuts people down, right? If you hear that you can't, if you get good, they're just going to attack you, right? Even though you're a good candidate, you might never run for government. Think about that. Think about all the good leaders that we could be having in our state that could be helpful, that could be bipartisan, that could be collaborative, that could be good policymakers for our state and help our families if we didn't have that. But that's what we have. And so it turns out it was true. All you have to do is read how they did it, right? There were candidates. They showed exactly how it was done. They put however many, $60 million in there, and then they pulled from that and they ran negative ads against anybody that got really close to win a seat. So they would do the polling, and then if they did well, they would take 500,000 or however much money they needed and just like hammer them with negative, potentially false ads against people, and then they lose, right? That's the way they worked, and it played right out, and it was true. So hopefully that money, by the way, the FBI is like watching that, and hopefully that money doesn't get out and is able to be used again, right? Because this is a close seat. We do have a chance to win this, and I am a good candidate that can fight, right? So I hope that democracy works. I hope that voters are wise. I hope they pay attention. I hope that they vote for the person and they look at the quality of the person who's trying to fight for them. And that's why I'm thankful that you let me come on the show and what I have to say about that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the pleasure's all mine, number one, and it's great to help get this information out. We've got a number of other comments here. Michelle Mueller has stopped by, and she's like suggesting phone bank, and because we need to have personal conversations with the voters so they can hear the straight scoop. So, and Crystal Dandridge, who is omnipresent everywhere, stops by, and hashtag bitter for better. We know that that you can fix some stuff up there. So tell us a little bit about that. Now that we're fired up, you got me fired up and ready to roll. How can we help you? I posted your sarabitter.com website on the top of the comments here. So can people go on there and hopefully drop a contribution or sign up to volunteer? Is that a good thing to do?
Yes, you can. On my website, it tells you there's a donate button. You can donate. Donations are really helpful because we have to run. Obviously, we are getting word out to voters through mailers and through digital ads and all different types of ways. We really need help with literature drops, and we're not doing canvassing. We're not doing door-to-door canvassing and talking to voters because we want to be safe because of COVID, obviously, but we need volunteers to help us drop literature and make phone calls. Those are the two big ones. Obviously, if you want to host something for us and just spread the word about us, it's extremely helpful for us. If you want a yard sign, when you go on the volunteer button on the webpage, it actually gives you a list of options of what you might want to do. We try to, you can click the box and then we'll know what you want to do. But we appreciate all the help and support. Again, this is an all hands on deck type of thing. Get out there, even if you're in House District 27. The Democrats in House District 27, like in Sims Township, Cleveland has a day of action coming up, so they're dropping the literature for all the candidates, not just for me, but for the Democrats. And of course, for my campaign, we have to go beyond Democrats. We have to talk with independents and Republicans. And I do want to make this point to everyone listening. I'm going to be a representative that talks to everybody, right? I'm a Democrat, and I'm going to be collaborative. I'm going to listen to Republicans. I'm going to listen to unaffiliated. I'm going to listen to Democrats, and that's just who I am as a person. That's what you're going to get as a legislator. I believe that you need to bring a lot of good perspectives to the table, and then you make decisions like that. I think that's the best form of leadership. And that's what that's what a representative is supposed to do. They're not just supposed to only represent their narrow vision of the world, right? You're supposed to open it up, hear everybody's opinion, and then take that information to your policy that you make, right? And that's what I plan to do.
Oh, I love it.
Vote for me, okay? I'm probably only talking to Democrats right now, and maybe you're not all in my district, but please vote for me.
So
there's 77 days left. Right?
77 days.
Number.
77 days. We're almost there. And of course, tonight we have the Democratic National Convention kicking off, I think, at 9 o'clock, so folks can stream that. But I think that's a good message for you, especially in your district. Hey, look, we're all Ohioans, we're greater Cincinnatians, and you're going to listen to everybody and be collaborative in that way. And, we need to do that to get things done, especially when, you're in the minority party. Hopefully we become the majority party in the state of Ohio soon. But nevertheless, that's what you need to do, and I mean that sounds reasonable to me. Yeah. So speaking to my Republican friends in the 27th district, I mean this is a strong message that she has here. My guess is your opponents are probably tuning into this tonight when they got wind of it. And so good. You all should be scared because Sara Bitter is out here getting it done. And, you take some solace in this. When they're attacking you, if they weren't attacking you, like you said, you probably weren't making any headway. And so what we need to do is just actually speak to the voters and let them hear your message directly. And with our help, with everybody jumping on sarabitter.com and signing up to volunteer, that literature drop is super easy. Get your steps in and just on doorsteps, drop it and keep rolling. To help Sara get her message out. We certainly appreciate that. So, wow, 40 minutes just flew by tonight, Sara. Thank you so much for joining us. Any just parting words of wisdom here in the closing seconds?
Yeah, I'll just say, please, get your mail-in vote. Do whatever you can to secure how you're going to vote, whatever that be. Hopefully, you'll just do it via the mail. Make sure you check your registration. Get your, you can already send in your mail-in voting application, and then it'll just be mailed to you when it's ready to go.
Right.
So please do that. Just vote, stay engaged, and don't just vote this time. Get engaged for the rest of your life, please. Stay involved. This is our civic duty, right? This is a democracy. Be nice to your neighbors, right? People are just people. Whether, party-wise, I come from a family of Republicans. I love my family members. I love my neighbors, whatever their party is. We're Americans, so, come on, let's do this.
Love it. That's great stuff. And so to Sara's point, vote HamiltonCountyOhio.gov. You can go on there, request, like she said, you can print out the ballot request, drop that in the mail. They'll send out those ballots as soon as they're available, and you can take those, either drop them off at the Board of Elections or put it in the mail if 45 hasn't confiscated all the mailboxes by then. We're working on that, but there's a lot of fires to put out here. But at any rate, Sara, thank you.
Drop it off at the Board of Elections if you're worried about that.
That's right. That's great
vote
advice.
Early and vote in person. Just find your way. You do what you got to do, but vote. Find a way to vote, please.
Indeed. And everybody, as always, this will be uploaded on my YouTube channel. If you get on there, search on YouTube, Derek Bauman should come up. We've got an archive of all of the great episodes of the show and all of our wonderful guests, of which we have a number of great guests coming up. We'll be sharing that information shortly. You can find me, social media, at Derek Bauman, pretty much all of the channels. And Sara, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been a great program, and it was wonderful to hear more about your very, very compelling story. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, Cincinnati and Greater Hamilton County, have a fantastic night. We love you. Be safe, and we'll talk to you again soon.